First, let me thank Representative Jessel for asking some very important questions regarding how S corporations, like many small businesses throughout the state, have actually passed through their business income. Whether that business income has actually been realized or it's on paper, that shows up on a tax return. And that could be subject to the tax we're talking about today. People in my district sent me here to represent them to help to facilitate job creation in our state, because they want to see a lot of the neighbors put back to work that still are struggling to make ends meet. And just as importantly, those small businesses in my district and throughout this state are looking for help from this body to defend them and prevent actions like today's from further deteriorating the business conditions and the business climate in our state. And Mr. Speaker, don't we hope that each new small business in Illinois that starts here is successful and creates jobs for our neighbors here in the state?
I think we all agree on that.
I agree as well. Wouldn't you agree that our state's fastest growing small businesses might ultimately, as they grow and they become more successful, be affected by the income tax you're suggesting?
Well, they could be affected by the tax code in general and subsequent changes in the tax code.
Well, I agree, but this is a change in that tax code effectively, and to many of them it's going to appear, in my opinion, to be a negative change in the tax code. And much has been said in discussion so far about extracting a little bit more from those who are already successful in our state because they've been successful, and they may want to contribute more to our education system and to our government as a whole. But I'm looking at that potential small business owner, Mr. Speaker, who is looking at Illinois as a place that they might start their business. And they have visions and aspirations of being hugely successful and putting a lot of great people to work here in this state. But they're going to look at other states as well, because that's only appropriate for someone who's going to make that kind of an investment. For that entrepreneur, aren't we telling them right up front that as soon as you get to the point where you're going to start realizing some of that return on your hard work and your investment, that we're going to take a little bit more than maybe another state would, or than the state currently does right now?
I would refer back to the comments by Representative Martwick, where he explained that some of our neighboring states already do that. It's already in place.
I understand. But those states might not have the same cost of doing business as Illinois as we already have. Yeah. I know that in my small business experience, as a part of a family business and my own business, we face some pretty substantial workers' compensation costs. We face high property taxes. And frankly, this is an expensive place to do business if you ever find yourself in the litigation system. So what we're doing, in effect, is we're telling those small businesses, yep, we're doing one more thing in Illinois to make this place a more expensive place to do business, and for you to gain your investment back and realize an actual profit at the end of your total investment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the bill. We're fortunate in my district to have an entrepreneur who started his business in his garage, like one of those classic success stories. His business took off. He started hiring people, hiring his neighbors, expanding his operations. And he invested a lot of his profits back into his business, continued hiring, and then invested substantially in his community. These are the kinds of success stories that create jobs for real families in our state. And they're actually what I think Illinois needs a whole lot more of. But with the high cost of doing business in Illinois, it is safe to say that further investment in our state has been put in jeopardy. Adding this measure to increase taxes on his profits through his personal income tax return will likely confirm that further investment will completely cease. In fact, it is likely that that very smart small business person is going to take a look at his overall expenses and compare what it would cost to move his operations to another state and move all those workers that are currently hired by his operations with him. We're talking about hundreds of families being affected by this measure being on top of all the other many measures that we already have in our state that make it expensive. In my district and throughout the state, it's effectively going to be a tax that will ultimately hit your middle-class neighbors when their job has a more likely situation of being moved out to another state. So let's be clear. While this is being presented as a millionaire's tax on the very wealthy who might be driving a Maserati or the Rolls-Royce, this constitutional amendment will ultimately hurt your middle-class neighbor who probably drives a minivan with their kids to soccer practice, left wondering why their job left the state of Illinois. And that's up to us. I urge a no vote. Thank you.